They told you that love is a gift, that it flows freely without asking anything in return. But what if I told you that this is the most dangerous illusion of all? That unrequited love is not noble. It is a wound disguised as virtue. Why do you keep offering your heart to those who do not want it? Why do you persist in loving those who cannot or will not love you back? Is it because you are selfless, or because you are trapped in a pattern you don't even recognize? Carl. Jung would say it is the latter. He would tell you that your conscious mind clings to the fantasy of love, while your unconscious, the hidden architect of your desires, compulsively seeks out rejection, not because you enjoy the pain, but because the pain is familiar. Have you ever wondered why you chase the unavailable? Why the cold, distant, emotionally indifferent captivate you more than those who offer warmth and stability? Jung called this the repetition compulsion, a loop where the psyche recreates unresolved wounds from childhood over and over, in the desperate hope of achieving a different outcome. But here's the truth. No one tells you. Unrequited love is not about the other person at all. It is about you. It is about the part of you that believes you are unworthy of being chosen, of being desired. Unrequited love is not romantic. It is tragic. It is the psyche's unconscious attempt to validate its own narrative of abandonment, rejection, and inadequacy. And the more you chase it, the deeper the wound becomes. You tell yourself that you are patient, loyal, even heroic. But the reality is far more sinister. You are addicted to your own suffering. And the most devastating part? You don't even know it. You think your heart chooses freely. But what if it doesn't? What if your attractions are not spontaneous, but scripted, etched into the deepest layers of your unconscious long before you even knew what love was? Carl Jung warned us about this. The unconscious does not merely influence, it governs. And when you fall for someone who does not return your affection, it is not random. It is the inevitable result of an inner drama, rehearsed countless times in the shadows of your psyche. Ask yourself, why are you drawn to those who ignore you? Why do you ache for the one who withdraws, who remains silent, who refuses to see you? Is it because they are special, or because they activate something within you that you've long refused to confront? This is the trap of projection. Jung taught that we project our unmet needs, our disowned desires, onto others, especially those who are emotionally distant. They become the stage upon which your inner conflicts play out, but they are not the real source of your pain. The real source is the ancient wound, the one left unhealed by a parent's coldness, a caregiver's absence, a childhood moment where love was withheld and your worth was quietly, devastatingly questioned. So now, without even realizing it, you seek out people who mirror that original wound, not to heal it, but to relive it. You say you're searching for love, but what you're really doing is searching for your wound. And every time you fall for the unavailable, you tear it open again. The question is, how many times can you bleed before you realize that it was never about them? What if I told you that your love is not an act of purity, but of self-sabotage? That beneath every declaration of devotion, there lurks a darker, more primitive force, the shadow. Carl Jung described the shadow as everything within us that we refuse to see. Everything we repress, deny, and exile from consciousness. But repression does not mean elimination. What is repressed festers, and ultimately it finds expression through our choices, especially in love. You think you are pursuing happiness, but what if you are pursuing punishment? What if your longing for the emotionally unavailable is not a quest for connection, but a ritual of self-abandonment, orchestrated by the parts of you that believe you deserve to be unloved? The shadow does not operate with words or logic. It operates with compulsion. It seduces you towards what wounds you under the guise of romance. It makes you believe that if you can just make the cold person love you, you will finally be worthy. But here is the tragic irony. The more you chase, the colder they become. The more you give, the more they withdraw. And in their absence, your shadow whispers, "See, you were never enough." This is not love. This is reenactment. It is not a relationship. It is a stage upon which your disowned self inflicts the same injuries you suffered long ago. And until you confront the shadow, until you drag it out from the unconscious into the light, you will keep calling this self-destruction love. 3. Question is, how many more times will you let your shadow choose for you before you finally choose yourself? Have you ever noticed how those who reject you seem larger than life? More mysterious, more alluring, almost godlike? Why does the person who denies your love suddenly hold such immense power over you? Carl Jung would call this the activation of an archetype, the unconscious elevation of an ordinary human into a symbolic figure. The unattainable lover becomes more than a person. They become an embodiment of your deepest fears, desires, and unresolved complexes. You do not see them as they are. You see them as your unconscious demands. And so the more they withdraw, the more you idealize them. Their silence becomes enigmatic, their indifference intoxicating. You transform their rejection into a test of your worth, a cosmic judgment on whether you are lovable at all. But here's the truth. They are not rejecting you. They are rejecting the role you've cast them in, a role they never agreed to play. They do not despise you. They are indifferent. And yet your psyche cannot accept this. It insists on making their rejection meaningful, personal, fated. This is the tyranny of the archetype. It blinds you to the humanity of the other and enslaves you to a myth you don't even know you're living. You are not in love with them. You are in love with what they represent, the ultimate validation of your existence, or its final crushing negation. And so you kneel before their absence as if it were a god, offering your devotion in exchange for a love that will never come. The tragedy is not that they reject you, but that you reject yourself in the process. So I ask you, when will you stop worshiping the ones who turn away and begin seeing the one within you who has always been waiting to be loved? You think that if you change yourself, if you wear the right mask, they will finally love you. But what if I told you that this very act of self-betrayal is the reason you remain? Carl Jung called this mask the persona, the social facade we construct to gain acceptance, admiration, or in your case to seduce the unattainable. You contort yourself into who you think they want, more agreeable, more mysterious, more perfect, but every performance distances you further from your authentic self. Ask yourself, how much of what you show them is real? How much is a carefully calculated illusion designed to provoke their attention, or at least their curiosity? But here's the cruel twist. They are not rejecting you. They are rejecting the mask. And when your persona fails to secure their affection, you interpret it as proof that you are fundamentally unlovable. You forget that they never even met the real you. This is the tragedy of the unrequited. You offer them an image, not a self. And then you suffer when they do not love what was never you in the first place. The more you adjust, the more you disappear. And yet, the deeper horror is this. You no longer know where the mask ends. And you begin. You have worn it for so long, chasing their approval, that you've forgotten the face beneath. Jung warned that identification with the persona leads to psychic death, a hollowing out of the soul, sacrificed on the altar of social acceptance and romantic longing. So I ask you, will you keep molding yourself into what you think they desire? Or will you risk being truly seen, even if that means being truly rejected? Because here is the truth you've avoided. Love that requires a mask is not love at all. You believe that if they finally love you, all the pain will stop. That their affection will heal the ache you've carried for as long as you can remember. But what if I told you they were never meant to be your healer? Carl Jung would say that the one who suffers in unrequited love is not the adult self, but the wounded inner child, That forgotten part of you that long ago concluded, I am not enough. This child lives within you still, unseen, unheard, desperate. And every time you fixate on someone who does not return your love, it is this child who is speaking. See me, choose me, prove that I am worthy. But here is the brutal truth. You are asking the wrong person. The emotionally unavailable lover cannot rescue your inner child. They do not even see them. They see only your mask, your projections, your compulsive longing. And in their distance, they unknowingly reinforce the very wound you hope they will heal. So you keep chasing, hoping that this time it will be different. That this time the cold one will soften. That this time you will be chosen. But it never is, because no lover can give you what your own psyche has denied you: self-acceptance, self-compassion, self-love. Until you turn inward and embrace the wounded child you have long abandoned, you will keep searching outward in vain. You do not need them to love you. You need you to love you. But I know that realization terrifies you, because if the healing is your responsibility, then so is the pain. The question is, will you keep outsourcing your healing to those who cannot give it? Or will you finally answer your own inner child's cry? Why is it so hard to walk away? Why, even when you know they will never love you back, do you still check your phone, still replay every interaction, still hope? Carl Jung understood this too well. The psyche clings to what is familiar, not what is healthy. And for you, longing itself has become an addiction. You mistake it for love, but it's not. It is a ritual, a cycle of anticipation and disappointment that gives your life structure, meaning even purpose. The ache in your chest has become so constant that you fear who you'd be without it. Have you ever asked yourself what would remain if you finally let them go? If you no longer woke up thinking of them, no longer constructed fantasies about what could be? The terrifying answer is nothing. Because without this obsession, you would be forced to confront the emptiness within, the void left by years of disconnection from your true self, masked over by the drama of chasing the unattainable. So you hold on, not to them, but to the longing itself. It makes you feel alive, even as it quietly destroys you. This is the cruel paradox. You suffer, but you choose the suffering, because to choose freedom would mean facing your own internal desolation, your own unmet needs, your own profound loneliness. And perhaps that is a pain even greater than unrequited love. Jung taught that addiction is not about the object, but about the unconscious pattern beneath it. Your addiction is not to them, but to the emotional script you've rehearsed your entire life. So the question is not, how do I make them love me? The real question is, why am I so afraid? To stop longing, you say you want love, but is that really true? Or do you only want the idea of love, safe within the realm of fantasy, where it cannot threaten you with its messy, vulnerable reality? Carl Jung warned us, the unconscious often sabotages what the conscious mind claims to desire. You think you want intimacy, but what if you're terrified of it? What if your fixation on the unavailable is not a tragic accident, but a defense mechanism? Because true intimacy requires exposure. It demands that you remove the mask, confront your insecurities, and risk rejection. Not for your persona, but for your true, imperfect self. And perhaps that is too much. So instead, you pursue the one who is safely distant, who will never truly see you, who will never get close enough to shatter your carefully constructed identity. You convince yourself that if only they loved you, everything would change. But deep down you know they won't. And that's precisely why you chose them. Because their unavailability protects you from the terrifying possibility of being loved for who you actually are. This is the hidden comfort of unrequited love. It allows you to remain in longing, in idealization, in fantasy, without ever having to face the unpredictable, uncontrollable reality of genuine connection. You suffer, but your suffering is familiar, safe, predictable. Jung would say that you are caught between two opposing forces within your psyche, the longing for union and the fear of dissolution, the desire to be known, and the terror of being seen, and so you remain trapped, suspended between wanting and fearing love. The question is, when will you stop choosing the fantasy that keeps you safe and risk the reality that could set you free? You've spent so long chasing them, chasing their attention, their affection, their validation. But what if I told you that everything you seek in them is already within you? Carl Jung called this the path of integration, the process of turning inward, confronting the unconscious, and reclaiming the disowned parts of yourself. It is the opposite of projection. It is the end of the chase. The wound left by unrequited love is not healed by finding someone new to fill the void. It is healed by facing the void itself, by daring to descend into the depths of your own psyche and meeting the parts of you that you have long abandoned. The lonely child, the rejected self, the angry, grieving, humiliated aspects you've tried to bury beneath perfectionism, achievement, or desperate longing for others. Integration is not romantic. It is brutal. It demands that you stop blaming them and start owning your patterns, your wounds, your compulsions. It demands that you recognize the unavailable lover is not your nemesis, but your mirror. They reflect back to you the very parts of yourself that you have deemed unworthy of love. And in this realization, you are faced with a choice. Continue the cycle, endlessly seeking what you refuse to give yourself. Or break the pattern and begin the slow, courageous work of loving yourself, your whole self, your persona, your shadow, your wounds, your gifts, all of it. Because until you integrate, you will remain fractured, fragmented, exiled from your own center. Jung taught that individuation, the process of becoming whole, is not a luxury, but a necessity. Without it, you will forever be a wanderer, mistaking others for salvation. The question is, are you ready to stop running and finally come home to yourself? This is the moment you've been avoiding, the realization that no one is coming to save you, that the love you've been chasing is not something to be found, but something to be created within. Carl Jung called this the task of consciousness, to bring light to what was once hidden, to make the unconscious conscious, and in doing so, to reclaim your power. Unrequited love is the clearest signal that you have been living unconsciously, trapped in patterns dictated by wounds you did not choose but have unknowingly perpetuated. But now, you know. And with that knowing comes responsibility. You can no longer blame fate, bad luck, or the cruelty of others. You must face the truth. You have been choosing this. Not deliberately, but compulsively, reflexively, driven by forces you refused to see. But the moment you see them, the spell begins to break. You are no longer condemned to repeat the cycle. You can choose differently. You can stop projecting your need onto the cold, the distant, the unavailable, and start cultivating love where it has always been lacking, within. This is not a fairy tale ending. It is not the sudden arrival of a perfect partner. It is far more radical and far more terrifying. It is the decision to become your own source of love, validation, and acceptance. Jung would call this a psychological rebirth, the death of the false self and the emergence of an integrated, authentic being. And from this place, true love becomes possible, not the compulsive chase of the unavailable, but the conscious union with someone who sees you, because you have finally chosen to see yourself. This is your liberation. But remember, every liberation is also a loss. You must grieve the fantasy to make space for the real. So I leave you with this question, the only one that truly matters. Will you keep bleeding for those who cannot love you? Or will you finally turn inward and become the love you have always deserved? The choice is yours.